तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नाना शास्त्र विचारणैकनि कनिपुणो सद्धर्म संस्थापको लोकानां हितकारिणो त्रिभुवने मान्यौ शरण्याकरो राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्द भजना नन्देन मत्तालिको वन्दे रूप सनातनौ रघुयुगौ श्रीजीव गोपालको। We'll start chapter 3 today. In chapter 2, we spoke about mm, types of devotional service, types of sadhana bhakti. So that was Vaidhi sadhan and Raganuga sadhan. We also came to learn the definition of Vaidhi sadhan. What is Vaidhi sadhan? When the devotional service is performed under the regulations, rules and regulations of the scriptures, and not because of great attachment uh, to the Supreme Lord. That is called uh, Vaidhi sadhan. Just a second. So in the chapter 3, which is entitled Eligibility for Devotional Service, or eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. We should know that here the eligibility is being spoken of for Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. It's not for Raganuga Sadhan Bhakti. Uh, It's the eligibility for entering into Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. What makes a person eligible? That is discussed here. So this chapter is basically showing us the entrance or the gateway or the door to Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. Hmm? Fine. So in Sanskrit, this is called adhikar. The word is called adhikar. And one who possesses that adhikar or qualification is called adhikari. Fine. Hmm? In Sanskrit, it says, Yaha kena api atibhagyena. You know, one who is atibhagyena. Atibhagyena means very fortunate. Atibhagyena. Jata shraddho asya sevane. And because of that great good fortune has developed a shraddha. In what? In the seva of the Supreme Lord. Na atisaktaha, na vairagya bhag. And that person is not too attached, not too detached. Asyam adhikari aso. That person is qualified for Vaidhi sadhana. Hmm. So there are three things. Basically, you can note these points down. There are three things. One, who has faith in the service of the Supreme Lord. Second, who is not too attached. Third, who is not too detached. Such a fortunate person who has impressions of bhakti because of association with pure devotees of Krishna is qualified for Vaidhi sadhana. Even coming to Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is very, very rare. You know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ati Bhagyena, very fortunate soul, gets a chance to enter into Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And then if Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is so rare, then what to speak of Raga Nuga sadhana bhakti? Hmm. Extremely rare. That person should not be too attached, and that person should also not be too detached. Um, which means false renunciation should not be there. Then that person is qualified for Vaidhi sadhana bhakti.
Prabhuji, this too attached or detached in the material things.
Of course.
Okay.
Fine. Hmm? So, in the introduction of this book of Nectar of Devotion, we discussed the definition of pure devotional service. Anya Bilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anamritam. Then in chapter 1, uh, we discussed about the six characteristics of pure devotional service. In chapter 2, we discussed about the practice of pure devotional service, Vaidhi and Raganuga. Now in chapter 3, we are talking about the eligibility. Hmm. Who who has the qualification for practicing Vaidhi sadhana? Fine. Let's read this this first two paragraphs in which Prabhupada talks about the same subject. On account of his association with Mahatmas. Now, how does one become eligible? Due to causeless mercy of pure devotees. On account of his association with Mahatmas or great souls, 100% engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna. Even in the chapter 2, we came to learn that devotional service begins because of attraction to the Supreme Lord. And that attraction may be coming from the previous lifetimes, or that attraction may be born in this particular lifetime. Mm. It is coming from previous lifetimes because of engaging in devotional service in the previous lifetimes, and it may be born in this lifetime because of coming in contact with devotees of Krishna. But anyway, bhakti can only begin by the mercy of devotees, bhaktas. So in any lifetime, we started our devotional service, we started due to association of Vaishnavas by their causeless mercy, right? So on account of his association with Mahatmas or great souls, 100% engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one may remain very much attached to fruitive activities and material sense enjoyment and not be prepared to undergo the different types of renunciation. Such a person, if he has unflinching attraction to Krishna, becomes an eligible candidate for discharging devotional service. So here he said that when someone begins to practice Vaidhi sadhana, that person still may have lot of attraction for material sense enjoyment. That person may also be attached to fruitive activities, right? But still that person is eligible. On what criterion? On what criterion is that person eligible?
Attraction to
Because he has unflinching attraction to Krishna.
Yeah, he is unflinching attraction to Krishna, right? Huh? So now a very important principle can be drawn from this statement. What is that? What is that? If you are trying to share Krishna consciousness with others, the objective of your sharing of Krishna consciousness should be that that person should develop attraction towards Krishna. You know, that should be the main purpose and approach. That person should develop attraction towards Krishna. If that attraction has developed, then even if that person is still interested in material sense gratification, still attached to fruitive activities, still does not have much renunciation, that person may take to the practice of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti.
Prabhuji,
Hmm.
between Vedic sadhana bhakti and Raganuga bhakti, pure devotional service is Raganuga bhakti?
Who said that to you?
No, I'm just asking a question.
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu talks about what subject matter? What is the subject matter of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu?
Krishna.
No, in Bhakti Rasamrita, so in the beginning, in the introduction, what verse did we learn? Anya Bilashita Shunya.
Yeah.
That is the first thing that Rup Goswami is teaching.
Yes.
What is that verse talking about? Pure devotional
That is
service.
pure devotional service. Yes, Anya
Anything
Bilashi.
after anything that comes after that is pure devotional service.
Okay.
Whether it is Vaidhi sadhan, whether it is Raganuga sadhan, whether it is anything,
Samanya
isn't it?
bhakti was also talked about.
Samanya
Samanya
Bhakti.
is Samanya.
Samanya Bhakti is not taught after that. Samanya is something which we have understood while discussing the definition of pure devotional service,
Okay.
right?
Vedic and
So,
Raganuga both are called pure devotional. Yes.
so
Thank you.
this attraction for Krishna consciousness in association with pure devotees is a sign of great fortune. It is confirmed by Lord Chaitanya that only the fortunate persons, by the mercy of both a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna, will get the seed of devotional service. In this connection, Lord Krishna says in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 8, My dear Uddhava, only by exceptional fortune does someone become attracted to me. And even if one is not completely detached from fruitive activities or is not completely attached to devotional service, such service is quickly effective. So in the beginning, one doesn't need too much of renunciation. Also, one doesn't need too much of knowledge to take to Krishna consciousness. One needs only attraction. No. Krishna consciousness should be an attractive thing. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada always wanted to present Krishna consciousness in a very attractive manner. Big temples. Why? Gorgeous, opulent worship of Krishna. Why? Very delicious food, prasadam. Why? Mm. Uh, so much of opulence is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. For what reason? To make Krishna consciousness appear attractive process. Mm. That is the reason. So that people get attracted to it. People should not have any uh, prejudice about the system, that, oh, this is boring, this is orthodox, this is not for us. No, so to develop that attraction, the Krishna consciousness was presented in a very um, pleasant and in a pleasing manner, that people should see it as very nice. Fine. Then they can take to the process, to the practice. Okay. So how does one achieve the eligibility? The eligibility is by the mercy of a pure devotee, on account of association with Mahatmas. So, should one be very much disgusted with material life to take to Krishna consciousness? No. And, neither should one be very attached to material life to take to Krishna consciousness, isn't it? If one is very much attached to material life, one becomes qualified for which path? If one is very much attached for material life, sense gratification, one is qualified for which path? The path of karma. Hmm? Right? Uh, Too much attachment is caused by avidya, and avidya is the birthplace for karma. Karma is born of avidya. Avidya Shakti inspires one to engage in karma. Right? Then next, if one is too detached from material life, too much disgusted, one is qualified for the path of
Jnani Paramatma.
yeah, jnani, jnana. Right? That detachment is born because of nishkam karma. So one who engages in nishkam karma, he becomes purified, or she becomes purified in the heart from the propensity to enjoy sense gratification. And then one becomes disgusted also. Now, bhakti, one should be free from extreme attachment and extreme detachment. Right? Then what happens is, a person who is free from extreme attachment, some or other, comes in contact with a devotee, pure devotee of Krishna, then that person becomes qualified for devotional service. Right? Therefore, you see, it's very intelligent for people trying to pass the message of Krishna consciousness, not to pass it to people who are gross sense gratifiers. It's a waste of time. If you think, no, I'll be able to preach to them and then bring them to Krishna consciousness, no, you are going to just waste your time. Right? So those who are extreme sense gratifiers, too much engrossed in it, you don't waste your time preaching Krishna consciousness. They will not accept it. They will not accept it. And those who are too much suffering or disgusted with material life or have dry renunciation in their heart, you don't preach Krishna consciousness to them also. Right?
What is the reason for the second situation, Prabhu, when they are too much frustrated with material life? They will not easily
The
come to
reason
Krishna.
the reason is for bhakti, the heart has to be the heart has to be soft. You need some emotions to engage in bhakti. If you don't have any emotions, softness of heart, then one cannot engage in bhakti, because bhakti is basically expressing your feelings of love for the Supreme Lord. So those are too detached. They have a very hard heart.
But I remember, Prabhuji, once we were told that for coming to Krishna consciousness, one person should have complete material frustration. How do we understand that?
Material frustration in the sense that you should know that you should not have much hopes from material life. That's frustration. But it doesn't mean that, mm, to you, material activities appear to be very, very uh, useless. Because then, when you come to Krishna consciousness, you won't also find the prospect of engaging in devotional service to Krishna very attractive. Krishna consciousness means what? You engage in practical service to the Supreme Lord. So then you will not have any inspiration to engage in those practical services, right? Uh, Such people, they just like to sit idle and speculate. They don't want to do some seva to the Supreme Lord, because they think karma is waste of time. Why should I engage in karma, right? Hmm? And then another thing, you see, they may become qualified for Jnana Mishra Bhakti, but they will not become qualified for pure Bhakti. Similarly, someone who's too attached to karma may become qualified for Karma Mishra Bhakti or Karma Yoga, but they will not become qualified for pure Bhakti, pure devotional service. Hmm? We are talking about Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti, which is regulated, pure devotional service in practice. Hmm. So sometimes people think that renunciation is a prerequisite for devotional service. But is it so?
No,
Is it? No, it is not required. Renunciation is not a prerequisite. What is the prerequisite for beginning spiritual life? Attraction to Krishna. Right. In fact, too much of renunciation may become an impediment for devotional service. Mm. Fine. Now, in the next paragraphs, we discuss about the types of eligibility. Three types of adhikaris are there. Three types of eligible candidates. Uttama adhikari, madhyam adhikari, kanishta adhikari. Uttama adhikari means one who is highly eligible for Vaidhi sadhana. Madhyam adhikari, who is moderately eligible. And kanishta adhikari, who is least eligible for Vaidhi sadhana. Fine. We are not talking about an Uttam Vaishnava. We are talking about an Uttam adhikari. There's a difference here. Like, for example, if there is a graduation ceremony of a university program, then those students who have graduated, you can categorize them as the best student, average student, you can say best graduate, average graduate, and lowest level graduate, right? So that is Uttam Vaishnava, Madhyama Vaishnava, Kanishta Vaishnava. But those who are going to take admission into the university, even those candidates for admission can be classified as best candidate, average candidate, lowest candidate, isn't it? So that is uh, synonymous to Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Kanishtadhikari. You are understanding? So we are talking here about eligibility for entering into Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. Okay. Now, in this case, who are most eligible? What are the two factors on the basis of which eligibility is there? One common factor is there. That common factor is attraction to the Supreme Lord. That is common factor. All three should have attraction towards the Supreme Lord. But then there are two factors on the basis of which we discriminate. This is Uttama, this is Madhyama, this is Kanishta, Adhikari. And those two factors are what? Those two factors are
Shraddha, faith,
faith
knowledge.
and knowledge.
Faith and
Knowledge. Okay. Faith and knowledge. Faith and knowledge of what? Faith in what? Knowledge of what?
Knowledge of
Shastras.
scriptures. Knowledge of
Yeah.
scriptures.
Knowledge of scriptures, faith in scriptures. Hmm. Fine. So, why did Srila Prabhupada want his followers to study the books?
To develop faith.
Yes, so that their eligibility to practice Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti increases. Their eligibility to practice Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti increases. Right? Before having the knowledge of the scriptures and understanding the scriptures and having developed faith in the scriptures, they were still eligible for Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. But perhaps the eligibility was Kanishta level. Right? But after having studied the scriptures, having developed faith in the scriptures, now if they become eligible, they might be eligible of what category? If they are really developed that faith and knowledge, then maybe Madhyama or Uttama. Average or higher eligibility. Right? That's why Srila Prabhupada wanted the devotees to study the scriptures so that the eligibility increases, adhikar increases, to practice Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Now, what is meant by adhikar? Adhikar here doesn't mean an academic qualification to intellectually understand something. Adhikar here essentially means when you have developed more faith in the scriptures, the knowledge of the scriptures, uh, what happens is you also get the spiritual strength to practice those limbs of devotional service which you are not able to practice before. Adhikar means strength. It's not an intellectual capacity. Adhikar also means spiritual strength, qualification. So when I say someone has a better qualification for practicing devotional service, that means that person is more spiritually strong to practice devotional service. And spiritually strong means that person can more easily practice the limbs of devotional service. To give an example, someone who doesn't have faith, doesn't have knowledge, will struggle to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna because that person lacks strength, adhikar. And when that person has developed faith in this knowledge of the scriptures, then that person will chant because that person now has more strength to chant, that person will chant better. Right? So adhikari, therefore, whatever my level of adhikar might be, I should always endeavor for and pray for a higher level of adhikar.
Prabhuji, in Tulsi Puja, we say Seva Adhikar Diye Karo Nij Dasi. What kind of Adhikar we are asking for that when we are saying this?
When you are praying to Tulsi Maharani for Adhikar, actually that prayer is very much in the mood of Raganuga Bhakti, Raganuga Sadhan Bhakti. So you are asking for that Adhikar. But because we are not at the level of Raganuga Sadhan Bhakti, we cannot really think of getting that Adhikar now. But that prayer is actually in that mood.
Okay.
Okay. So we have to constantly endeavor and also beg for mercy to increase our level of adhikar for practicing pure devotion service. Hmm. Like I'll give you an example. Please try to understand it. When someone has not come to Krishna consciousness and has, let's say, just is at the onset of practicing Krishna consciousness, look at your own life of beginning practice of Krishna consciousness or what you observe around you. How do you begin the practice of Krishna consciousness? You start chanting 1 round or 2 rounds or 4 rounds, right? Isn't it? At what time of the day? 2 a.m.
Anytime we started any.
How do you begin it? Or how did you begin it? When you came to know I should be chanting Hare Krishna every day, you started chanting at 2 a.m. of the day?
No, Prabhuji, anytime we get
8
free.
a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., sometimes in the night.
Sometime you're sometime chanting at 6 p.m., sometime 8 p.m., sometime 11 a.m., something like that, right? But then slowly you started chanting 16 rounds. You came to 16 rounds, and then you came to know that you should chant in the morning. So then slowly you started chanting at maybe 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m., isn't it? Hmm? But then still, it never came to your mind that I should get up at 12 midnight and chant, or at 1 a.m. and chant, isn't it? It didn't come. Hmm? So, what is the reason for that? Is the chanting at 1 a.m. or at 2 a.m. not the best chanting? It is the best chanting. The chanting which you do before Mangal Arati is the best chanting, right? Hmm? But why that thought doesn't come to us as a practitioner? Because we don't have adhikar for it. Hmm. Don't have adhikar for it. But then, let's say you come across some pure devotee of Krishna, you heard in the lecture of some pure devotee of Krishna, or you got to associate with some pure devotee of Krishna, who has the adhikar to chant at such hours of the day, and then that person tells you, or you come to know, or you come to hear that one should chant at that hours of the day, and you accept that statement with faith, then you also develop the adhikar for it.
Yes, Prabhuji, it has exactly happened.
Then you develop adhikar for it. So this is eligibility. You become eligible for it, right? And then when you become eligible for it, then when you work on it, then it becomes possible in your spiritual life also. Fine. Hmm? So one has to increase one's adhikar gradually. And that way one's practice of devotional service becomes more potent. uh, More potent. Okay. So we talk
Prabhuji,
about the
between Kanishta, Madhyama, there might be some intermediate stages also, no?
Mataji, there are innumerable stages. We are just talking about here three broad categories, right? So it's a growing thing. Like for example, when you draw a graph of faith growing from 0 to 100, how many stages you can make between 0 to 100?
Innumerable.
Innumerable, right? But then just to have a basic understanding of what the stages are, you may say 0 is the first stage, 50 is the second stage, and 100 is the third stage, right? That's how Kanishtam, Madhyama, Uttama. Fine. Okay.
That is in every Vaidhi sadhana also Uttama, Madhyama, Kanishta, and Raganuga also Uttama, Madhyama, Kanishta. In every Bhava and Prema also same Uttama, Madhyama, Kanishta will be there.
Yeah. At every stage you'll have this. Till the stage of perfection is there. You'll have.
Oh.
Because there are gradations at every levels.
Okay.
There are gradations at every levels. Like for example, someone who is just entering into bhava, that is kanishta at the stage of bhava,
Okay.
right? Someone whose bhava is average developed, that is madhyama in the stage of bhava. Someone whose bhava is almost at the end, just going to get converted into prema, and that is uttama at the stage of bhava.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
It's basically a relative way of understanding things. Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttama. Why it is there? So as to show us the stage of development. Now, how do you develop from lowest level to highest level, right? So to show that, isn't it? Fine.
Okay, Prabhu.
So three types of adhikaris. First is Uttama adhikari. We'll read this. Let's read the third paragraph. Ashoka Neja Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Devotees may be divided into three classes. The devotee in the first or uppermost class is described as follows. He is very expert in the study of relevant scriptures, and he is also expert in putting forward arguments in terms of those scriptures. He can very nicely present conclusions with perfect discretion and can consider the ways of devotional service in a decisive way. He understands perfectly that ultimate goal of life is to attain to the transcendental loving service of Krishna, and he knows that Krishna is the only object of worship and love. This first class devotee is one who has strictly followed the rules and regulations under the training of a bona fide spiritual master and has sincerely obeyed him in accord with revealed scriptures. Thus, being fully trained to preach and become a spiritual master himself, he is considered first class. The first class devotee never deviates from the principles of higher authority, and he attains firm faith in the scriptures by understanding with all reason and arguments. When we speak of arguments and reason, it means arguments and reason on the basis of revealed scriptures. The first class devotee is not considered in dry speculative is not interested in dry speculative methods meant for wasting time. In other words, one who has attained a mature determination in the matter of devotional service can be accepted as the first class devotee. The second class
Hare
devotee
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you. So you see, sometimes the way Srila Prabhupada translates, it appears that now in this paragraph he's talking about Uttama Vaishnava. He's not talking about Uttama Vaishnava. He's talking about Uttama Adhikari. Right? One who has Uttama Adhikar. Now one who has Uttama Adhikar will become an Uttama Vaishnava eventually. Fine. Because that person has that kind of faith and knowledge.
Prabhuji, if we have to understand what is the basic means, 1 or 2 points of difference between Uttamadhikari and Uttam Vaishnava, how do we
I
remember?
just explained, Prabhu. One is entering into the college, other is graduate from the college.
Okay, understood.
Right. One is entering, one is graduate. Now, who is an Uttam Vaishnava? Very difficult to say. Because you cannot say, no, who has already graduated from the University of Devotional Service, who has become perfect. Very difficult to say. But who is an Uttamadhikari? That you can say based on the visible symptoms, based on the faith that person has in the scriptures and the knowledge that person has of the scriptures. Fine. Okay. Next. But some points are there which are very important to know. What are they? First, that person who is an Uttamadhikari has a mature determination in bhakti. Can present scriptural conclusions with perfect discretion. That person understands that the ultimate goal of life is Krishna bhakti. And that person sincerely obeys the spiritual master and follows the rules and regulations. Now, qualities of Madhyam Adhikari, Vaishnava, Adhikari.
Prabhu, can you please repeat the last two?
Perfectly understands the goal of life is Krishna bhakti. And sincerely obeys the spiritual master and strictly follows the rules and regulations. Okay. When we were discussing Updeshamrita, there Srila Rupa Goswami talked about the 3 types of Vaishnavas. Isn't it? Remember? Huh? Which verse was that? Three types of Vaishnavas discussed in which verse? Tell me the verse number or the first line of the verse.
Six.
Krishne tiyasya giritang manasa driyeta. Right? Verse number 5. So Srila Rupa Goswami talks about 3 kinds of devotees. So there, what was the definition given for Uttam Vaishnava?
Exalted in his knowledge of scriptures, he can argue and defeat.
No, that was not the definition given there. What is the definition given there for Uttam Vaishnava? Nindadi shunyam idam ipsita sangalabdhya. One whose heart is free from the tendency to
Criticize.
criticize others. Is an Uttam Vaishnava, right? That is someone who has come to the level of Uttam Vaishnava, free from the tendency to criticize others. Here we are talking about Uttam Adhikari, right? That is Uttama Vaishnava. There is Uttama Adhikari. So when I am a Kanishta Adhikari, eventually I'll become a Kanishta Vaishnava. If I am Madhyam Adhikari, eventually I'll become a Madhyam Vaishnava. If I am Uttam Adhikari, I'll eventually become a Uttam Vaishnava. Fine. So someone who has to go from Kanishta to Madhyama, that person has to increase his or her level of Adhikar. Fine. Next verse. Next paragraph. Next second. Two paragraphs. Sridhar Prabhu, please read the second and last devotee.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. The second class devotee has been defined by the following symptoms. He is not very expert in arguing on the strength of the revealed scripture, but he has firm faith in the objective. The purport of this description is that the second class devotee has firm faith in the procedure of devotional service unto Krishna, but he may sometimes fail to offer arguments and decisions on the strength of revealed scripture to an opposing party. But at the same time, he is still undaunted within himself as to his decision that Krishna is the supreme object of worship. The neophyte or third class devotee is one whose faith is not strong and who, at the same time, does not recognize the decision of the revealed scripture. The neophyte's faith can be changed by someone else with strong arguments or by an opposite decision. Unlike the second class devotee, who also cannot put forward arguments and evidences from the scripture, but who still has all faith in the objective, the neophyte has no firm faith in the objective. Thus, he is called the neophyte devotee. Further
Thank
classification
you.
of.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So Madhyam Adhikari. What are the qualities of a Madhyam Vaishnava?
Not conversant with the scriptures, not expert in argument, and
What are the
but has firm
qualities of
faith.
a Madhyam Vaishnava?
That was Ishware Tadadhineshu Balisheshu
Ah,
Dushatscha.
yes. Four characteristics. One who loves the Supreme Lord, makes friendship with the devotees, right? Neglects the demons, shows mercy towards the innocent people. That's the definition of a characteristic of Madhyam Vaishnava. Here we are talking about Madhyam Adhikari. So Madhyam Adhikari is someone who may not have a lot of knowledge, but has firm faith in the process of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Hmm? So this is Madhyam Adhikari. Madhyam Adhikari. And then Kanishta Adhikari is who has weak faith and has little knowledge of scriptures. So because that person has weak faith, when that person hears arguments given by atheistic people or the Mayavadis or the materialistic people, sometimes their faith shakes, right? They have tender faith, which means their heart, in their mind, they become disturbed. In their mind, they become disturbed. But then it doesn't mean that because they have weak faith, they will give up Krishna consciousness. As soon as they hear the pure teachings, then they develop strong faith again. But their faith changes. Pliable. The heart is pliable. The heart is not very strong yet. That's Kanishta Adhikari. Means, for example, if that person hears the lecture of a pure personality, a pure devotee, then that person is very enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness. But then next day that person hears a talk of Sadguru, then that person starts thinking, oh, what Sadguru is saying is also correct. Means gets little disturbed. Yeah, this is correct. But then that person hears against the lecture of Srila Prabhupada, oh, Sadguru is nonsense. Prabhupada is saying the right thing. So that is Kanishta Adhikari. The faith is pliable. The faith is not strong. Okay, so this is the situation of Kanishta Adhikari and Madhyam Adhikari. When such a person hears such talks, that person's heart does not become affected. And Uttam Adhikari, when such a person hears such talks, that person's heart does not become affected, and that person can defeat such arguments given by the opposing party from the scriptures. Okay. So what is your individual level? Kanishta Adhikar, Madhyam Adhikar, Uttam Adhikar. That you can decide for yourself. Note in your notebook. Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari. The good thing is, the good thing is, at least we should try to come to level of Madhyam Adhikari. At least we should try. We should be at least Madhyam Adhikaris. Right? Not Kanishta Adhikaris.
Prabhu, what are the qualities of a Kanishta Vaishnava?
That we discussed in Updeshamrita. Only
Ah,
deity is worshipable, no respect for
yeah, yeah.
Vaishnava. Right? Fighting with Vaishnavas, quarreling, and all that. That is Kanishta Vaishnava.
Also, God exists only in the temple.
Yeah, that's what deity. Faith in the deity. Archa Vigraha. Now, when we say have faith, what does faith mean?
Whatever the mentioned in the scripture, that is correct.
What is the faith?
Krishna is the only object of love.
Yeah, the goal of life is to please Krishna. That way. The goal of life is to please Krishna. That faith is there. Right? That Shraddha is there. That the only purpose of life is to please Krishna. And other desires should be given up. So can a Kanishta Adhikari, question now, does a Kanishta Adhikari have such faith?
Prabhu, you said that his faith is pliable. So he may have that faith on one day, on the next day, he may not have that faith.
No, that firm faith is not there.
No. Does that person has such a faith? Yes, therefore he's called Kanishta Adhikari. He has adhikar, but very low level of adhikar. Fine. So can a Kanishta Adhikari begin the practice of pure devotional service?
Yes.
Yes. Therefore the word Adhikari is there. Hmm? So most of the people who come to ISKCON are
Kanishka.
Kanishta Adhikaris.
Kanishta Adhikaris. Most of the people who come to ISKCON are Kanishta Adhikaris, right? Very few people come to ISKCON, no, who already has good knowledge of the scriptures, who has strong faith that the purpose of life is to please Krishna, isn't it?
Some
Very,
people also who are not even Kanishta Adhikaris.
yeah, of course, but then eventually they become Kanishta Adhikaris because they have some attraction, right? Isn't it? Hmm. But as a candidate, they are Kanishta Adhikaris. Very few are people who have higher adhikar or qualification, isn't it? And as an entering student, we're talking about someone entering as a student, isn't it? So, like when Sri Srimad Gaur Govind Maharaj came to Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to become a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So he entered as a student, but then he entered as a student in what category?
Uttama.
Samadhikari.
Samadhikari. He entered as an Uttamadhikari, isn't it? Already had, uh, of course, he was great personality before he entered into ISKCON. But if you just look at the process of, you know, accepting Guru and then following the instructions of the Guru and attaining perfection. So he entered as an Uttamadhikari. But many Srila Prabhupada disciples, they entered as
Kanishta Adhikari.
Kanishta Adhikari, isn't it? So a person may also enter as Kanishta Adhikari, but then that person also by practicing pure devotional service may eventually advance in Krishna consciousness. Now, who knows someone is entering as a Kanishta Adhikari or a Madhyama Adhikari or Uttam Adhikari? The Guru knows, the spiritual master knows, isn't it? The professor of the university will know which student is coming with what qualification. So then the spiritual master or the Guru will also give instructions accordingly to a Kanishta Adhikari, to a Madhyama Adhikari, to an Uttam Adhikari. Similar instructions will not be given, right? So that's how we have to understand that the methodology of transmitting of knowledge of Krishna consciousness and depends on the qualification of the person who is the recipient. Okay. We'll move further. Any questions so far? We read. No? Okay. So now let's go to the next topic. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks about 4 kinds of people who approach him. Who are they?
Arto, Artharthi,
Artharthi, Jigyasu, Jnani.
Jignasu, Jnani.
Jnani and Jigyasu.
So are they Kanishta Adhikaris?
Yes, they are Kanishta.
No. Why they are not Kanishta Adhikaris?
Because they don't have faith that Krishna.
Yeah, because they don't have the faith in the objective of pleasing Krishna. They don't come to Krishna to please Krishna. So most of the people in iskcon, they enter as
GF.
not as
Arto.
Kanishta Adhikaris.
Arto.
GF.
And was in
Ar-
They
this
don't, they
Arto
don't
or
enter as,
Artharthi.
yeah, they don't enter as Kanishta Adhikaris. Some moments back, some of you said Kanishta Adhikaris, but they don't enter as Kanishta Adhikaris, right? They enter either as Artaha or Jigyasu or Artharthi, and very rare people enter as Gyanis, isn't it?
None of them is Kanishta Adhikari from all the four.
No, because they don't have a objective of pleasing Krishna, no?
Okay.
Kanishta Adhikari is who is having an objective to please Krishna. Right? So they enter as 4 categories. Now try to understand. They are entering as one of these 4 categories. How important it is for them to undergo the process of training of Krishna consciousness, the knowledge and the science of Krishna consciousness, to at least become a Kanishta Adhikari candidate for pure devotional service. Right? They don't even come and come into the process of Krishna consciousness at the level of Kanishta Adhikari. They come as one of these 4 categories. Okay, fine. So whatever we do is ISKCON outreach. What is that ISKCON outreach?
to these people.
To
or
these
to
4 kinds of people. Right? That is ISKCON outreach. To these 4 kinds of people. Right? Then has to be brought to eligibility to practice pure devotional service. Let's read. Neha Mataji. Further classification.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Further classification of the neophyte devotee is made in the Bhagavad Gita. It is stated there that 4 classes of men, namely those who are distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are inquisitive, and those who are wise, begin devotional service and come to the Lord for relief in the matter of their respective self-satisfaction. They go into some place of worship and pray to God for mitigation of material distress or for some economic development or to satisfy their inquisitiveness. And a wise man who simply realizes the greatness of God is also counted among the neophytes. Such beginners can be elevated to the second class or first class platform if they associate with pure devotees. An example of the neophyte class is Maharaj Dhruva. He was in need of his father's kingdom and therefore engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord. Then, in the end, when he was completely purified, he declined to accept any material benediction from the Lord. Similarly, Gajendra was distressed and prayed to Krishna for protection, after which he became a pure devotee. Similarly, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara were all in the category of wise, saintly persons, and they were also attracted by devotional service. A similar thing happened to the assembly in the Naimisharanya forest headed by the sage Shaunaka. The sages were inquisitive and were always asking Sutta Goswami about Krishna. Thus, they achieved the association of a pure devotee and became pure devotees themselves. So, that is the way of elevating oneself. in whatever condition one may be, if he is fortunate enough to associate with pure devotees, then very quickly he is elevated to the second class or first class platform.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Shilbad says that what we discussed is covered in this paragraph. They come to the Lord for relief in the matter of their respective self-satisfaction. Means they are not happy in their life, and they come to the Lord to get some happiness. Right? But they can be elevated to second class or first class if they associate with pure devotees. Be elevated to first class or second class means
मध्यम अधिकारी और उत्तम अधिकारी.
Madhyam Adhikari or Uttam Adhikari. They can even become Madhyam Adhikari or Uttam Adhikari by association of pure devotees. Right? Fine. How will they become Madhyam Vaishnava and Uttam Vaishnava?
When they become Madhyam Adhikari, then they can elevate to Madhyam Vaishnava, and when they become Uttam Adhikari, they can elevate to Uttam Vaishnava.
When they have gotten Adhikar for pure devotional service and they execute pure devotional service, then they will become Madhyam Vaishnava or Uttam Vaishnava. Right? So therefore, you see, this is a very important principle to understand. By the association of devotees of Krishna, we get a higher adhikar for practicing Krishna consciousness. But if you think just because I've gotten the association, I am done now, I've gotten the complete benefit. No, that association has given you a chance, has opened the door for you. Now, once the door is open for you, you have to take advantage of the opportunity being given. Which means then I have to personally practice what is being given to me or taught to me. Then when I practice that, then I become successful in that. So association of pure devotees bring us to the platform of practicing pure devotional service at a higher adhikar. But then if you think, okay, now I got the association of pure devotees, I am done. That's not sufficient. One has to then practice also. So some sentimental people, they think that just because I have gotten the association of pure devotees, that is sufficient. But just getting that is not sufficient. After one has gotten that, then the next is how much one is taking advantage of that association. So then the more I take advantage of that association, the more I emerge, as a higher level of, sincere devotee or servant of the Supreme Lord. So as we associate with devotees, our eligibility increases. However, the practice is in our hand. We need to practice. See, the examples that are given here by Srila Prabhupada, those examples are themselves very lofty, Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj is being shown here as the person who was not qualified for Kanishta Adhikar for pure devotional service. But as such, Dhruva Maharaj was so much qualified, isn't it? But it is said that he was not qualified for even Kanishta Adhikar of devotional service. But when he came in contact with Narada, by the association of Narada, and by following what Narada told, then his Adhikar increased, and then he became, an exalted personality, an exalted Vaishnava.
Prabhuji, these lofty examples are given to show us our place, that we are nowhere.
These lofty examples are given because in scriptures, you will give examples from the scriptures. In the scriptures, you have those examples. of categories of people who approached Krishna and also made their life successful. I mean, so many arthas they approach Krishna, so many arthas approach Krishna, so many jigyasus and gyanis approach, but not all of them make their life successful, right? So here examples are given of those who approach from that category and then they made their life successful. Now, if we look at our category, we are not even at the category of Dhruva or the sages of Naimisharanya or Gajendra, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right?
So we are like even lower than the Kanishta or even lower than whatever low level there is over
That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is said Patita Pavani, Patita Pavan, deliverer of the fallen, isn't it? So we can understand and accept that we are patitas, or we were patitas. We are still patitas, fallen souls. And by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or great personalities like Srila Prabhupada, such fallen souls, they get an admission into Krishna consciousness. Anjali Mataji, please read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you. Okay. Um, An example of the neophyte class is Maharaja Dhruva. He was in need of his father's kingdom and therefore engaged himself in devotional service to Lord. Then, in the end, when he was completely purified, he declined to accept any material benediction from the Lord. Similarly, Gajendra was distressed and prayed to Krishna for protection, after which he became a pure devotee. Similarly, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanant Kumara were all in the category of wise, saintly persons, and they were also attracted by devotional service. A similar thing happened to the assemblage in Namisharanya forest headed by sage Shaunaka. They were inquisitive and were always asking Suta Goswami about Krishna. Thus, they achieved the association of a pure devotee and became pure devotees themselves. So that is the way of elevating oneself in whatever condition one may be. If he is fortunate enough to associate with pure devotees, then very quickly he is elevated to the second class or the first class platform. These four types of devotees have been described in the seventh chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and they have all been accepted as pious. Without becoming pious, no one can come to the devotional service. It is explained in Bhagavad Gita that only one who has continuously executed pious activities and whose sinful reactions in life have completely stopped can take to Krishna consciousness. Others cannot. The neophyte devotees are classified into four groups: the distressed, those in need of money, the inquisitives, and the wise according to their gradations of pious activities. Without pious activities, if a man is in a distressed condition, he becomes an agonistic, a communist, or something like that. Because he does not firmly believe in God, he thinks that he can adjust his distressed condition by totally disbelieving in him. Lord Krishna, however, has explained in the Gita that out of these four types of neophytes, the one who is wise is very dear to him, because a wise man, if he is attached to Krishna, is not seeking an exchange of material benefits. A wise man who becomes attached to Krishna does not want any return from him, either in the form of relieving distress or in gaining money. This means that from the very beginning, his basic principle of attachment to Krishna is more or less love. Furthermore, due to his wisdom and study of Shastras, scriptures, he can understand also that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is
Thank you,
confirmed.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank
So
you.
Srila is explaining here a little elaborately how different kinds of people come with different conceptions. Mhm. So Gajendra was suffering and he prayed to Lord for protection. Uh, Dhruva, he wanted wealth, um, right? The sages of Naimisharanya, they were inquisitive about the different teachings given in the different scriptures. They asked so many questions to Suta Goswami. Mm. And then the four Kumaras, they were the wise people. They uh, they did not want anything. They just wanted liberation. And all four of them, they gave up their initial desire and they accepted the path of pure devotional service. Right. So this is something, a lesson for all of us. I have explained this while we were discussing Bhagavad Gita also. That please think about it. When I say think about it, strongly think about it. When you came to Krishna consciousness, what was your objective of coming to Krishna consciousness? And in the course of so many years that you are practicing Krishna consciousness, have you been able to change that that set of mind? We are not talking about whether you're chanting 16 rounds today or 20 rounds today, whether you are observing Ekadashi, not observing Ekadashi, whether you're initiated, non initiated, you know, whether you are a brahmachari or a grihastha. Hmm. We are not talking about those things. Institutionally, what is your position? What all services you are doing for the Supreme Lord and the Guru and Gauranga? Nothing like that. But just make your own study. When you came to Krishna consciousness, the purpose with which you came to Krishna consciousness, what was your internal state of mind? At the present moment, are you doing everything also with that same mindset?
No,
Is it the same? Is it the same
no,
driving force inside that is driving you to do what you're doing now?
no, it has changed.
So, what is that now? And if that is not pure devotional service, then we are still falling short. See, these four categories of people, these four examples, they came to Krishna, but then they changed. Dhruva Mara changed. Gajendra changed. The sages of Naimisharanya changed. The four Kumaras changed. Which means they gave up their initial conditioning and they accepted the genuine thing, the real thing. Similarly, it is an individual check, a personal check that we have to do with ourselves, our own heart, our mind, our consciousness. Why are we practicing Krishna consciousness today? Okay, so this is very important. Now, something very interesting I would like to tell you. Let's say you join the movement at a certain level of consciousness, and then you started practicing Krishna consciousness. And over the years, you have been able to evolve your consciousness and you have come to a certain level of adhikar. You know something? You can even lose that adhikar. Just because you have gotten it, it doesn't mean that it is going to be always with you. You can even lose it. That adhikar can also be lost. How? By Vaishnava Aparadha. So then that adhikar gets lost when we do offenses. When we do offenses towards the Vaishnavas, when we do offenses towards so many offenses are there, so many categories of offenses are there, then you lose that adhikar, that qualification. Hmm? Fine. So, next paragraph. So we need some piety to come to Krishna consciousness. It's mentioned, Yesham tu antagatam papam, right? Bhagavad-gita 7.28. It is required. Some piety is required. Therefore, those who cannot practice Krishna consciousness steadily, what are the prescribed things for them to do to become steady in Krishna consciousness? Let's say some devotee comes to you practicing, just join the movement of Krishna consciousness. And that person is saying, I'm not able to steadily chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds. I'm not able to steadily do Shravan Kirtan. I'm not able to steadily be on this path of pure devotional service. So a lot of hindrances are there. A lot of difficulties are there. So what is the problem?
Lack of piety.
Lack of piety. So then what prescriptions can we give to such a person? What prescriptions we need to give such a person?
Increase one's piety.
Develop
How?
faith.
How increase one's piety?
Continue a study, following.
How one increase? How should one? What practical thing you steps you will tell
By
that person?
service, seva.
How to increase one's piety? So you tell that
Scriptures,
person, you
reading the
tell that
scriptures.
person that you should circumambulate Tulsi Maharani every day. Should water Tulsi plant. On Ekadashis, you should do Nirjala fasting.
No.
Huh? You have to give such person very practical measures. Hmm? Do go seva, serve the cows, not for dharma. Serve the cows, thinking them as very dear to Lord Krishna, right? Not general go seva, which is, I'm a Hindu, I should serve the cows. Not that mentality. Cows are very dear to Lord Krishna, so I should serve cows. Then one should serve Tulsi. One should observe Ekadashi very strictly. One should recite the verses of Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, one should chant the holy name. One should hear Bhagavad Katha. In that way, one should increase one's piety. We are not talking about just material piety. We're talking about spiritual piety. And then steadiness will come in practicing Krishna consciousness.
Probably one point, when you said we do Vaishnava aparad, we lose that adhikar, means our consciousness goes down
Yeah,
automatically.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
that is the
yeah.
only.
Like for example, let's say initially you came to Krishna, after some time, now you develop this Shraddha. No, why am I interested in money? I should serve the Lord just for the sake of pleasing the Supreme Lord. Now you commit Vaishnava aparadh. After some days, again you start worshipping Krishna for money.
Prabhuji, please
Or
repeat. I have not understood.
watch the recording here again. So, that's how you lose that adhikar, you lose that eligibility, we commit Vaishnava aparadh. That's why those who do not understand what is the what is the you know uh, effect of Vaishnava aparadh or offenses, one takes those things very lightly. But there is always a fall in consciousness, which means your intention to practice Krishna consciousness changes. You lose that Shraddha. So what will happen? It's explained that when you commit offenses, then suddenly you'll become interested in wealth, you'll become interested in popularity, name and fame, you'll get interested in position, you know,
Quality of chanting may go down. That is the immediate.
quality of chanting will go down, or the purpose of chanting the holy name will change. If you are chanting the holy name with some little devotional emotions, those devotional emotions will wither away. Then your chanting will become mechanical. Mm. Fine. So once eligibility comes down, okay, let's go to the next paragraph. Which paragraph here you supposed to read? This one, no? Without being elevated to the position of India.
No, it is
It
confirmed.
is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. We have to start from this.
Okay. Yeah, Shamala, very good.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhu. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, when one becomes actually wise, he surrenders onto Vasudeva, knowing perfectly well that Krishna, Vasudeva, is the origin and cause of all causes. Therefore, he sticks to the lotus feet of Krishna and gradually develops love for him. Although such a wise man is very dear to Krishna, the others are also accepted as very magnanimous because even though they are distressed or in need of money, they have come to Krishna for satisfaction. Thus, they are accepted as liberal, broad minded Mahatmas. Without being elevated to the position of a Gnani or wise man, one cannot stick to the principle of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The less intelligent or those whose intelligence has been taken away by the spell of Maya or attached to different demigods on account of the influence of the modes of nature. The wise man is he who has truly understood that he is spirit soul and not simply a body, because he realizes that he is spirit and Krishna is the supreme spirit. He knows that his intimate relationship should be with Krishna, not with this body. The distressed and the man in want of money or in the material concept of life, because distressed and need of money are both in relationship with this body. One who is inquisitive may be a little above the distressed and the man in need of money, but still he is on the material platform. But a wise man who seeks Krishna knows perfectly well that he is spiritual spirit soul or Brahman, and that Krishna is the supreme spirit soul or Parabrahman. He knows that the spirit soul, being subordinate and finite, should always dovetail himself with the infinite and super soul, supreme soul, Krishna. That is the relationship of the wise man with Krishna. It can be concluded that a person who is freed from the bodily concept of life is an eligible candidate for pure devotional service. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that after Brahman realization, when one is freed from material anxieties and can see every living entity on an equal level, he is eligible to enter into the devotional service. As stated before, there are three kinds of happiness: material, spiritual, and devotional. Devotional service and the happiness due to its execution are not possible as long as one is materially affected. If someone has desire for material enjoyment or for becoming one with the Supreme, these are both considered material concepts. Because the impersonalist cannot appreciate the spiritual happiness of association and the exchange of loving affairs with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their ultimate goal is to become one with the Lord. This concept is simply an extension of the material idea. In the material world, everyone is trying to be the man, topmost head man among all his fellow men or neighbors, either communally, socially, or nationally. Everyone is competing to the greater than all others. In the material concept of life, this greatness can be extended to the unlimited, so that one actually wants to become one with the greatest of all, the Supreme Lord. This is also a material concept, although maybe a little more advanced. Can I continue, Prabhu? However,
Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhuji, one small clarification can I?
Yeah, Prabhu.
It is written, if someone has desire for material enjoyment or for becoming one with the Supreme, they are both considered to be material concepts. When becoming Brahman was I means in some lecture I understood it is a spiritual kind of area when you achieve Brahman. So when here, how do we understand this, that both are considered material concepts, becoming one with the Supreme also?
No, because it is not fully spiritual, therefore it's saying it's material.
Because it is the first stage of realization of God, so
It
it
is
is
at
not.
the margin. It is at the
Okay.
margin.
So we can
Because it is
understand in that.
because it is a margin, it's not fully spiritual. And if it's not fully spiritual, it is material.
Okay, we take it that. Thank you.
Just like, for example, zero is neither positive nor negative. It's at the margin of positive and negative. So you can call it both positive and you can call it negative as well. So from some point of view, you can say, okay, at least such a person is transcendentalist because that person wants to come out of the material life. But from the higher end, if you see, then that person is still hanging in between. That person is not yet fully into the spiritual arena. So that person still is considered to be a materialistic. What is the vantage point of looking at that person? If you look at a karm, if you look at a jnani from a karmi's vantage point, then the jnani is better than karmi. But if you look at a jnani from a bhakta's vantage point, then the jnani is lower. Yeah. Renunciation is not an eligibility to enter into the practice of your devotional service. Yes or no?
Yes.
But is renunciation required to advance in pure devotions?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. Right. So the point is what? That sometimes, devotees, they are very naive. How they are naive? When you came to Krishna consciousness, uh, you were told a set of instructions because you just came to Krishna consciousness. So you're told that you practice Krishna consciousness in this way and you'll come back to Godhead. Fine. Now, when you start reading the scriptures, having discussion, having more understanding, then you come to realize, no, no, if my practice is of the same level, I'll not make much progress in Krishna consciousness. You know? But then some devotees, some practicing devotees, they are very what do you call obstinate about their understanding, and they'll say, no, 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 when I came to Krishna consciousness, my counselor told me, you just do this and you'll come back to Godhead. This is not required, you know. So yes, when you came to Krishna consciousness, that much was sufficient to start practicing pure devotions. But now if you want to make advancement in pure devotional service, then you will have to accept other things also which are favorable for advancing in pure devotions. And if that reluctance is there, no, 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 I don't want to accept it. Whatever I was told, I'll just stick to that. Then one will not make much progress because you are not accepting higher instructions or more finer instructions in the process of practice. So some people have a lot of rigidity of mind, right? And they want to remain stuck to a particular level they have decided. They don't want to go beyond. But we are understanding here, yes, for entering into pure devotional service, you don't need much knowledge, you don't need vairagya, you don't need all those things. But to advance in pure devotional service, you need those things. Right? Therefore, this verse is the Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kamshati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who has become Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. That person can enter into pure devotional service. What is that stage of Brahma Bhuta? One should be free from material anxieties. Means bodily concept of life. Bodily concept of life. Material anxiety means bodily concept of life. Fine. Now, there are certain more things which are discussed. What are those things? Certain things which we have to be careful about to advance in the practice of Vedic sadhana bhakti, right? So, three things are there: bhakti, mukti, and bhakti. Rupa Goswami is warning that bhakti should not become covered by bhakti and mukti. And this is a very important paragraph to understand. Um, Desires for enjoyment and liberation are not proper for a practitioner or practicing devotee. Mhm. Let's read this paragraph. Usha Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Sadhu Pranam. However, the perfect spiritual concept of life is complete knowledge of one's constitutional position, in which one knows enough to dovetail himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. One must know that he is finite and that the Lord is infinite. Thus, it is not possible to actually become one with the Lord, even if one aspires for this. It is simply not possible. Therefore, anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, cannot actually relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. Srila Rup Goswami has therefore compared possessing these bhukti, material, and mukti, liberation, desires, with becoming influenced by the black art of a witch, in which both cases one is in trouble. Bhukti means material enjoyment, and mukti means to become freed from material anxiety and to become one with the Lord. These desires are compared to being haunted by ghosts and witches, because while these aspirations for material enjoyment or spiritual oneness with the Lord remain, one cannot relish the actual transcendental taste of devotional service. A pure devotee never cares for liberation. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed to Krishna, "My dear son of Nanda, I do not want any material happiness in the shape of many followers, nor immense opulence in wealth, nor any beautiful wife, nor do I want cessation of material existence. I may take many births, one after another, but what I pray from you is that my devotion unto you may always remain unflinching. Prabhu, just scroll up
Thank,
kindly. Okay.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Perfect spiritual concept of life is complete knowledge of one's constitutional position, in which one knows enough to dovetail himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. One must know that he is finite and the Lord is infinite. Thus, it is not possible to actually become one with the Lord, even if one aspires for this. It is simply not possible. Therefore, anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses, they are becoming more and more important. This is a very important line. Huh? Anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, cannot actually relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. So one may give up the idea of becoming important in material sense, but one may develop the desire to become important in spiritual sense. I should be in the front always. I should be given respect. I should be recognized. I should be given attention. So that seeking importance for oneself, coming in the front, that is detrimental to relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore compared possessing these bhakti and mukti desires with being influenced by the black heart of a witch. In both cases, one is in trouble. Right? Hmm? Hmm. Hmm. Now, how devotees they give up the idea of liberation is explained here. So, Ma Prabhu prayed to Krishna, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budau, right? Um, he says, I do not want na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitama jagadish kamayi. Um, I don't want material happiness, nor do I want spiritual happiness, which is obtained by liberation. Hmm. What do I want? I Nanda Tanuja King. I want to become your devotee birth after birth, again and again. I'm fallen in this ocean of material existence. Right? The attention of a pure devotee is so much attracted to glorification of the Lord's pastimes, name, qualities, forms, etc., that the devotee does not care for mukti. Sri Bilba Mangala Thakur has said, if I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. To pure devotees, therefore, liberation and spiritual emancipation are not very important things. In this connection, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25, verse 36, Kapila Dev has advised his mother Devahuti as follows. My dear mother, my pure devotees are charmed by seeing my different forms, the beauty of my face, the structure of my body so enchanting. My laughing, my pastimes, and my glance appear to them so beautiful that their minds are always absorbed in thoughts of me, and their lives are dedicated fully unto me. Although such people do not desire any kind of liberation, or any kind of material happiness, still I give them a place among my associates in the supreme abode. Fine. Next. A similar passage appears in the third canto, 25th chapter, verse 34, wherein Kapil Dev instructs his mother and says, My dear mother, devotees whose hearts are always filled in the service of my lotus feet and who are prepared to do anything for my satisfaction, especially those fortunate devotees who assemble together to understand my qualities, pastimes, and form, and thus glorify me congregationally and derive transcendental pleasure therefrom, never desire to become one with me. And what to speak of becoming one with me, if they are offered a post like mine in my abode, or opulence like mine, or even personal association with me, with similar bodily features, they refuse to accept because they are satisfied simply by being engaged in my devotional service. So when here it is said that that person doesn't become attached to my opulences or living in my abode, right? Um, because they are satisfied in engaging in pure devotional service. So this also means that one should not become attached to uh, the sense gratification one gets uh, being a part of the institute. Let's say the temple is the abode of the Lord. So the temple may have very opulent facilities for people living in the temple and visiting the temple. So those opulent facilities include the accommodation facility, the prasadam facility, and all those things. So one should not become attached to those facilities, but rather one should be eager to continue engaging in pure devotional service, right? In Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 9 chapter, verse 10, King Dhruva says, My dear Lord, the transcendental pleasure derived by meditation upon your lotus feet, which is enjoyed by the pure devotees, cannot be approached by the transcendental pleasure derived by the impersonalists through self-realization. So how can the fruitive workers who at most can aspire to promotion to the higher heavenly planets understand you, and how can they be described as enjoying a happiness similar to the devotees' happiness? Srila Prabhupada, yeah, after he took sannyas, I think the year he took sannyas, um, after he took sannyas, he wrote his Vyas Puja offering to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Very long Vyas Puja offering. So in that, he was telling his god brothers that don't become attached to living in opulent temples. Rather, you should focus more on the purpose of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. Mhm. So we should not think that the desire to become one with the Lord, the desire to enjoy the opulences of the Lord is something which one may think of after, going to Brahma Jyoti and after going to Vaikuntha. That desire may also come now in our present state of practice of Krishna consciousness. That desire may come even now, and one wants to enjoy. Okay? One wants to enjoy the opulences of the Lord. So let's stop here. The chapter ends. Any questions? Hare Krishna.
Hey, may I ask a question?
Yes,
So
Mataji.
when we are doing seva and we are pushing somebody to complete the seva, or we kind of find faults in the seva and we tell the person, so is that a Vaishnava aparadh?
If he,
We find faults in the seva.
on whose seva?
Somebody who's serving along with us.
And that person finds fault in our seva, or we
We
find
find
fault in this.
we find fault in the person's seva.
Uh, what is the purpose of finding the fault or looking at the fault?
Because we want the seva to be completed in a particular manner, and there is a level of excellence that is required in the seva. There are some time, bound targets, and there is something expected out of us when we are leading a particular seva. And then when we push the other devotees who are serving along with us in that manner, then are we committing any kind of aparadh?
No, it's not necessarily true that we are committing offense. But at the same time, the purpose of the whole seva or the service has to be understood. Uh, what is the purpose of it?
The purpose may be to please the guru.
Yes, but then uh, the way I understand the guru will be pleased, the other person may understand it differently. To give you an example, let's say Srila Prabhupada, when he went to the West, he was working on his books, right? And then he met this person, Howard Wheeler, who became later on Hayagriva Das, initiated by Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada came to know he is adept in English language, and he gave him the task of typing his manuscripts. So while Wheeler, Hayagriva Prabhu was doing that seva, he did some mistakes in the task of doing that seva. But Srila Prabhupada still accepted his seva.
But then, Prabhuji, does that mean that we accept substandard service, what is being done?
No, we do not accept substandard seva, but we cannot be so strict with a person that we discourage that person away from the seva.
No, I mean, you've given enough time to the person, you've explained enough times, you've done all of that. Then,
Whatever it is, main thing is if you understand what I'm trying to say, the essence of it. If we are just interested in getting a thing done in a particular manner, but in the process of achieving that, those people who are involved with us, they are not getting encouraged in their devotional service. Then the purpose of that whole endeavor is lost. The purpose of that whole endeavor is lost because the way we are thinking is after this seva is done in this particular manner, uh, by the result of this seva, what will be the outcome will become useful in practice of preaching of Krishna consciousness in a certain way. So we are thinking more about the future results that will come from that particular outcome, right? Isn't it? However, in the process of achieving that result, those who are involved in the process of helping us achieve that result, we don't always look at their individual growth in Krishna consciousness or their particular state of consciousness, you know. And in that way, we are losing the purpose. The purpose of the seva is not just the future prospects of it. The purpose of the endeavor is also what benefit will it bring to those who are being a part of it while that thing is getting achieved. Both the things are there. Therefore, we may not do it in an offensive manner, but if we are too strict about it, then we may just discourage people away.
got it.
So, better than what is better than that is either you accept people who are very qualified for the seva. And if you are not taking people in who are really qualified for it, if you are taking in people who are substandard, then if you are expecting that they will do the job you want, will not always be a practical reality. So either we should not recruit such people for the seva, but if you are recruiting them, then what to do? Because that's all what you have. You have to just manage with that, right? Therefore, you see, I'll just explain on it a bit. When a temple is to be constructed, you are constructing that temple for whom? For the Lord, right? So if each labor involved in the construction will be a devotee, will that not be a more Krishna conscious offering? It will be. But still, why we don't hire devotees to become the laborers? Because we know that devotees may not be able to do that job very well. We hire people who are qualified for that job, isn't it? So now, if we hire someone who is not qualified for it, just because that person is a devotee, and then we tell that person, now you become the civil engineer. So that person will do mistakes. So when our acharyas were very particular about getting things done in a particular manner, they, instead of hiring people who are devotees, they hired people who are professionals. Because they knew that that person will do the job, what I want. But when our acharyas were devising means to engage the practicing devotee in Krishna consciousness, then they gave them services in which there was a scope of, okay, 1920 or something less. So we have to understand what is the purpose of our endeavor. Why are we making that endeavor? Hmm. Any other question, comments? So what we understand, the only qualification to begin pure devotional services, devotee's mercy and attraction for Krishna. Then what is the qualification to advance in Vaidhi sadhana bhakti? It depends on the maturity of our knowledge and faith in the scriptures, right? And the qualification to practice pure devotional services, liberation from bodily concept of life. These three things are understood very well. Okay. So we'll stop here. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.